These are some of the most juicy, tender, flavorful vegan meatballs I've ever had. I set out to make them after being generally unsatisfied with ones I got at the store. The ones in the frozen section just seem to have a weird texture, and the ones I've made at home with seitan, well, they had the seasoning, but they just lacked the fat. Beyond Meatball sells their product as a meatball, but they're whole, so you can't season it the way you'd like. So if you wanted to say, make Swedish meatballs, for instance, you'd have to be okay with them being, quote, Italian style. So to make my version, mix a pack of Beyond or Impossible ground meat with a pack of Impossible sausage. And if you can't find the sausage, don't worry about it. Then add 50 grams of breadcrumbs. And by the way, I never buy breadcrumbs. I just make as much as I need by straight up throwing bread into a food processor. Then add a teaspoon each of MSG, garlic powder, red pepper flakes, sugar, ground black pepper, and oregano. And if you want to make Swedish meatballs, then just sub the oregano for nutmeg. The two packages together were 26 ounces total, so this will make 26 1-ounce meatballs, which I find to be a pretty good size. While making these, I only weigh out the first one and then eyeball the rest from there, as I don't like to be that formal in my kitchen if I don't have to be. If you don't want to make all 26 at once, you can scoop out your desired number of meatballs. Like here, I just made 12, and then store the rest in your freezer or fridge when you'd like to make some more. After about 15 minutes at 375 in the oven, they'll be done, and the internal temp should be around 170-ish. The goal with this is to solidify them while keeping them juicy and tender. Just make sure that the final temperature is above 165 internally. So before we get into finishing up the meatball sub, I just want to say that you can use this recipe to virtually veganize any other meatball recipe that's not already vegan. Just sub out the animal-based meat for plant-based meat, obviously, and then you can exchange the seasonings and other ingredients out that I use for the seasonings in the recipe you desire. However, sometimes the non-vegan recipes will call for egg, and what they're doing there is using that as a binder to hold the meat and the seasonings together. I've made a few different versions of this meatball recipe, and every single time I've never used a replacement for the egg. However, if you're gonna be using any extra liquid like plant-based milk or anything else that another recipe calls for, you may need a binder. And if somebody wants to try out using just egg in the meatball recipe, let me know how it goes. I'm actually really curious. I didn't get around to trying that out for this video. All right, so back to making the sub, and the big thing is that you wanna make sure that the sauce is reduced. You don't wanna serve someone a sloppy Sammy by having the sauce make the bread all soggy. So while the sauce reduces, tear out the bread from the top bun, which will ensure that the balls can cozy up in a little carby compartment, and then lightly toast. Add some vegan cheese. Mozz or provolone style will work well here. I tested melting them by a blowtorch, but ultimately broiling the cheese directly on top of the bun worked way better. Once the sauce is sticking to the balls, pop them on your cheese. Sauce up the top bun. Chiffonade and apply some basil. Add some diced pickled peppers if that's your thing, and enjoy. So this is a new format for me, and I would love to hear what you think. I'm trying out just tips and tricks and templates for veganizing everyday recipes in the kitchen. If you have an idea for something to tackle next, would love to hear it. And until next time, y'all, be nice to each other and keep cooking.